there's a lot of stuff that I need to do, but this is where we're at.
Right. Oh, I totally get that, especially with just starting my business.
So, Crystal, thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much. You just recently started your own business.
I did. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago now.
So, describe the feeling that you have whenever you finally were like, because a lot of people were talking to you about it and they're like, hey, you should probably do this. You need to go out on your own or whatever.
Right.
But that feeling of actually saying, you know what, I'm going to do it.
It was very freeing for me. It was a whole nother level of just, oh, I can do this. I can do this. Why do I need to work for someone else kind of thing? I need to work for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Show my kids that, yeah, you don't have to just have a 9 to 5 for someone else.
And also it's kind of it's a good time because the Great Resignation, I guess.
Right.
Have you read anything about that?
A little bit here and there.
So, I guess that's kind of fitting. It kind of plays into this too, right? So tell me what you do.
I'm a social media marketing manager. I manage social media platforms for small businesses. So if they're looking to reach out more on Instagram, LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, Twitter, that's what I do. Because a lot of people don't have time. That's their thing. I don't want to learn it. I just want to do what I do and have someone else run that for me. So that's where I come in because I want the small businesses, not necessarily the big, huge corporations. I want the mom and pop shop, around here.
It's more fulfilling, I think, to help local people, and then especially whenever they don't have like any knowledge or any really desire to be in the social media space,
right? Or have time to learn it,
right?
It's a lot.
I mean, it is a lot. And so, how did you get into that? How did you get into being a social media manager?
Well, part of it was jobs when I worked for other people.
Okay.
I started dabbling here and there and learning, and of course, when I worked for Tomlin Roofing, that was a big one. That was I was full time 9 to 5. That's what I did for them. And they did my roof first. So it was kind of like, I wanted to help them. I have a passion for helping people.
Sure. So you've had a few jobs, with different people doing this. What did you do before that?
I was an executive assistant for a vice president of a big company,
Okay.
New Horizons.
Wow.
So I did everything from wrapping his Christmas presents to his Amex reports reconciliation. It's kind of where that's where I got into LinkedIn, and because I knew I had to have more of a professional look out there in that realm.
Sure.
LinkedIn was one of my big ones.
Yeah.
Pushing New Horizons just as being me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for him, but for the company in general.
Mm-hmm. So you've been married for, I see the sweetheart pictures. You and your husband have been together for a long time.
Yes. 7, 8, a long time.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
So, support. The support system is a conversation that I've had in the last couple of interviews that I've done. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation that I've had so far is like having a spouse support your entrepreneurial endeavors, right? Could be a wonderful supportive thing, or it could also be a crutch,
right?
So it sounds like from just what I've heard you say and the support that I see online, I mean, he's very encouraging for you to do this.
Yes.
What took you so long?
Me.
Yeah.
I was my own crutch. Yeah. I think part of it too was when I went to my first Tri-County Chamber of Commerce meeting, it was like, I have to introduce myself and who I am, and I have to say my name and what do I do? It was like, I have to do that. And so it was kind of watching you guys, as other entrepreneurs in that space, just how confident you guys were. And just, I mean, like you'd been doing it 30 years.
Huh.
So for me, it was kind of watching all of you, and learning. It was almost like I had 50 business coaches right there in that space, and then I became a diplomat. So it was kind of like me coming out of my own shell and, okay, I can do this,
I would say it's got to be a little bit easier to get in front of a business when it's not something specifically tied to you.
Right.
So when you mentioned the diplomat, being a diplomat for the chamber, um, that gives you a reason not to sell something,
Right.
but it also gives you a reason to get in front of people.
Right.
Because I'm the same way, right? It's like I try to have things that people need. I'm not trying to be a salesman. That's
Right.
tough for me, But so yeah, that's interesting that you point that out during your time as as at the chamber is being able to get in front of these different businesses as a diplomat.
How I kind of gained the confidence was when I worked for Tomlin, I was a salesperson as well to sell roofs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of brought me out of my shell a little bit too, where, cause I could relate to those people, I could relate to roof issues and having children and going, okay, as a mom, as a wife, the
Mm-hmm.
stress of that, I could sell a roof very easily. Um, because I could relate to them on a different level,
Sure.
Versus just being that sales guy knocking on your door.
Yeah. Hey, you need to do a roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I had, when we had that hailstorm in 2018
Mm-hmm.
in Shirts, I had 50 roofers at my door. Like, oh yeah, I can see you have, I was like, okay. Like I wasn't very confident in them. So I was like, no.
Yeah.
So I kind of relate that to how can I bring value to people?
A lot of people get into entrepreneurship. They start their own business because they want to make a whole bunch of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not the money; it's the value. You know what I mean? You've got to create something of value.
Right.
Now, I mean, there's value everywhere. People. You don't have to create the next Facebook to have something of value, or the next pod deck or drink or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is like janitors create value
Mm-hmm.
because they're saving you time on something you don't have time to do.
Right.
There's value there, and there's nothing, and of course there's nothing wrong with that. But I think people lose sight of the value part of entrepreneurship. What are your ambitions for your new business? Oh, here's a good one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ooh.
More specifically, where do you see Crystal Clear Media Solutions in 5 years?
Hopefully I scale as an agency.
Yeah.
That's what I would like. I don't necessarily want employees right off the bat, but I think that the more people hear about us and different things like that, I think I want to grow. I mean, I definitely want to grow.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I want to be comfortable because that's the thing is I've always worked. That was what my parents, you work hard, you do things, you don't just, take advantage of other things that are out there.
Do you think that still applies in today's world?
No.
In my parents' era, it was, you work really hard, you go to work for a blue chip company, and then, you're there for 30 years, you draw your retirement or whatever it is, and then you live happily ever after, but
Right.
somewhere along the line that changed. And there's people out there a lot smarter than me that could point out where and why, but, I think one of the things is that the companies started to become less loyal to the employees, so, they would hire some 20-year-old manager to come in and save them money. Well, they would lay off everybody that, was approaching retirement,
Right.
and then so, hey, look at all this money we saved, and then now all these people, it seems to be kind of a shift, it's like, seems a lot more cutthroat,
Right. And I feel like people aren't as loyal to the employer because they're not as loyal to them.
Correct.
In a mindset.
There's a million factors I think that can go into this. I think that at the core, most reduced down, you're right. I'm not a huge corporation. I can't entice employees with huge money, right? So where I try to be nimble are in other places. Like we have very flexible hours. My guys don't even get here till noon, which kind of drives me a little crazy, to be honest. But that's, enticing for them. That's going to be difficult for them to get a job in what they're doing anywhere else where they just kind of come and go as they please.
Right.
You know what I mean? My only thing that I'm adamant about is you got to get 40 hours a week. If those 40 hours come in the middle of the night, fine. not fine really if y'all are listening to this, but but it's the 40 hours a week thing. Amanda's
Right.
at a little bit of a disadvantage because she's got to be here to
Answer the
during
phone.
regular business hours.
Right.
But yeah, I think that there's a huge disconnect between employee and employer, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of this great resignation. Are you going to manage your employees when the time comes?
I am not sure.
Haven't thought much about it, huh?
I mean, in the last 2 weeks, no, because I just started.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I want to make it. I mean, I've had one employee before when I actually worked for myself in a daycare. Well, I had my own in-home daycare. Check the box. That's done. Never do that again. But it was just understanding their point of view as well. It's also having a heart, but also just having conversation, communication as far as, hey, what's going on? How do you feel? Is there anything we can do better? And I also had her involved. It was just one employee, but I had her involved in the day-to-day of things. How could I make things easier for her as an employee? And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I wish there was more work from home scenarios. And I think that changed too recently, the last 2 years or so. I think more employers are
This is
for
going to be
it.
this is going to be fascinating to watch this play out because I know the end result because I lived it.
Right.
And so I started my business in my bedroom, and eventually graduated into the living room and into my own little office within my house. Life was good
Right.
until the recession. That aside, the point is that working from home is great. It is possible to get things done, and I'm not even talking about a person's personal productivity because that's going to vary wildly.
Right.
But you're going to miss out on collaboration.
That's true.
And without collaboration, you're not going to have, I don't want to say growth, but you're going to have stagnation.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like with my business, whenever I hired my first employee and I came to work and we worked in the same office, and after we got past that initial stigma, because she was a real good friend of mine, there was a lot of benefit that came from that. I got to see a different perspective. She would ask me, why are we doing it like this? And for anybody listening, I hate the response because we've always done it that way.
Right.
And it's usually a good response as long as you can back it up. Why have you always done it that way? You know what I mean? But so anyways, I think long term, this telecommuting, it's going to play out. There's going to be plenty of things where you can definitely pull it off. But I think that you've got to have that social interaction and collaboration to grow the whatever it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you decided to go out on your own, did you do anything formal? Did you put a business plan together or like an LLC? And I think some of these things keep people from starting. You know what I mean? They're like, I want to start my own business. I got to have a CPA. I've got to have this. I got to have this. I got to have this. I got to have all these things. And some people pull it off. Some people do it, but it's like, if you go to business school, I'm assuming because I never went, but if you go to business school, they're going to say, okay, you got to have these things in order.
Right.
And I'm not that person.
Right.
I always put the cart in front of the horse,
Yeah.
So what about you? Whenever you decided to take the plunge, did any of that cross your mind? Were you worried about any of that? Are you still worried about any of that? Are you?
It's a process. I got my DBA.
Okay.
I haven't got my LLC yet just because I don't feel like I need it right now.
Right.
I kind of have a business plan. It's not anything fancy. It's just, I mean, I already had a client even before I started,
Nice.
which was good. Yeah. So I had that already. And pretty much what we did is I got an EIN number with the IRS.
Yep. Uncle Sam's got to get his cut.
Right. I think just because I've thought about it so long, I kind of already had some things in place, but I'm slow to do it. I'm not like, okay, boom, I have 1 through 10 done.
Right. Right.
It's kind of like, I got 1, 2, I added QuickBooks, I added, so, and I've talked to a lot of people, I mean, you're one of them, I have a logo now, thanks to Mad Women Marketing. She helped me create one, and then business cards are coming. So that's exciting. That's one of my most exciting. Like I wanted the business cards right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk to people and have something, because I still go to luncheons and stuff. So I was like, hi, I'm Crystal. I haven't
Yeah.
business cards yet, but you know, I mean, it's a lot of money going out too.
That's my next point.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of small businesses, they start out bootstrapping their business.
Right.
They have a talent, they have a skill,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of these other things that go around that in order to sell that skill. Sometimes, sometimes it can take you by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How do you get that in front of potential customers?
Um, that's kind of the value added is more of I'm taking this off your plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily
Time saving.
right because one person was like, well, you know, what can you guarantee me for what I'm paying you? And I said, well, I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee that you're going to get 10 more clients because you're paying me what you're paying me to get you more clients. I can't guarantee that.
Sure.
Because online is such a hit or miss,
Mm-hmm.
and it really depends on the algorithm of the social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say,
And
okay,
they're all different.
right. And I can't,
And all ever changing.
yeah. I mean, my thing is what I tell people, because I always do my research. I charge a setup fee because I want to go through and look at your business. I want to see what you've been doing, how you've been doing it. I mean, there's people that are posting once a month,
Mm-hmm.
twice, 3 times a year. I'm going to grow them more than that,
Right.
because obviously we're going to, however many posts they hire me for.
Mm-hmm.
But we utilize it better. The hashtags and things, those actually mean something. A lot of people, hashtag my dog is beautiful is not going to work. You have to actually have meaning behind the hashtag,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun. I don't, by all means, joke and people,
Sure.
I do that,
Mm-hmm.
Can someone take these kids? Like
Hashtag.
hashtag. Yeah. So, but that doesn't go anywhere, and I know that. But some do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, we implement different things that, and I'm going to be posting and I tell people, you've got to help me. I can't do it by myself.
Right.
You've got to share with your friends. You've got to invite, because it's not just, oh, look at me, look at me. You're not blowing them up. You're not,
Right.
asking them to buy something from you. You're just saying, hey, share this. You're going to share something you like on Facebook anyway. Why not share what your friend's doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's free.
Sure.
So, and then you're going to get a bigger audience. So I tell people you have to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, here, Crystal, take care of this. I'll
Make
see
this
you next
work.
year. Right. Yeah. It involves.
It's a partnership.
Right. It involves work on their end.
Very nice.
So, and I don't know, with insurance, real estate, I have to learn compliance too on their end, because I don't know real estate compliance and what
they're allowed to, what not allowed to.
right. And so I have to talk to them and kind of make sure I'm doing it right so they don't get shunned from Facebook.
Well, that should be them. They should know, right? It's their trade. You know what I mean? Look,
Right.
it sounds like you could say, look, this is going to be our strategy. This is how we're going to go forward. But I got to make sure that to cross the T's and dot the I's.
Mm-hmm. And Facebook will tell you. I mean, they're good about it. They're good about telling you if you're doing something wrong.
I just saw somebody say something about getting out of Facebook jail, and I was like, there needs to be a Facebook prison where inmates can mingle with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Go out into the yard and
Yeah,
mingle with others.
there's
all the offenders. Yeah.
I was like, man, I ain't seen you in a long time. Oh, you've been in Facebook jail. Have you identified any competitors to what you're doing?
I have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Local?
Yes. I actually met with one.
Okay.
She's, a great person, and it was kind of like, my mentality is like, you're not my competitor.
What do they think about you?
I don't know. I hope she liked me. We're friends now.
Well, friendship aside, do they think that you're a competitor? Do you think?
I don't think so.
No? I think that's a mature way to look at it.
Right. And that's the mentality I want too I'm not going to steal their client.
Right.
I'm not going to try and go after, because there's how many billions of people that need help with this? It's huge.
Well, and also, fact of life, some people click with other people, some people don't. If you're providing a service and you're the only one providing it, and then somebody else shows up who's a lot more personable than the first person,
yeah,
I'm sorry to tell you, this is what's going to happen.
Right. And that means I should have worked harder.
Even that aside, like, I do business with some, and this is embarrassing to admit, I do business with some people that they don't offer me a good deal. They don't offer me any, money savings, not even that quality of service, just like the person.
Right.
You know, I can talk to this person. I know what they're telling me is a bunch of crap, that they're not going to be able to fulfill what they're saying they are going to fulfill, but I know eventually it'll get done.
Right.
And I'm not in a super hurry for it, so I let that slide.
Right.
You know?
Well, part of it too is one of the reasons I started it was because I kept hearing about my competitors and how expensive they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want those. I want the smaller guys. I want, even if I have more clients that are less expensive packages, you know, for me, I feel like that's more doable than the big guys that have, you know, I'm not looking to get the big corporations, you know, Walmart. I want the little guys, you know, and the ones that can't afford, you know, the big ones, which is, they do great. I mean, they do amazing work.
There's a market for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's again, that's how I started my first printing business, was that, you know, for the small mom and pop plumber, roof, whoever, you know, to go get blueprints, it's like, you know, $3 a page, you know, because you don't do a lot of volume.
It's expensive.
You know what I mean? And then so for me, I was like, man, that's a real kick in the teeth, you know, because like it's just the opposite. They don't have the money to pay these big prices.
Right.
You know what I mean? These big corporations who don't even look at the invoice charge them more. But I know that's not how it works in real life, you know? So it's like, I wanted to help those guys, you know? And so whenever I started my printing company, it was almost like a side business. I had all the equipment for my main business, and we just kind of put a sign in the yard and said, hey, we're printing blueprints. You know, if you need them, come by. If not, you know, which is a horrible business plan, by the way. Whether it's building a website, whether it's getting on the first page of Google, whatever it is, you know, it's like, wow, this is a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. You know, it seems like there should be some middle ground that I should be able to see some sort of improvement on. Right. It's not going to cost the farm. You know, your fee is more than I'm making a quarter. So I can't, unless you're going to bring that much. If you were going to bring that much work, I'd need to hire employees.
Right.
You know. So anyway.
And I've had that feedback that I'm still too expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of work around that too, because I had one person, we just decided to do one session of teaching her something, and it's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know? And once she gets bigger, she'll remember that.
Yeah.
You know, so I brought value to her, even though she may not be a client right off the bat.
Well, that's got to be appreciated. So, I mean, you're just kind of showing her the ropes, then it sounds like.
Right.
You know,
she can do it herself until she
need more exposure. Let me at least show you how to do that. And then when you get to be so busy that you can't do it, call me back.
Right. And that's an idea I've had, which I think I called you the other day for it, about.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Selling. I don't know if that's the right word. Offering for a small fee. I mean, because I had one lady who is a client now. She said, I didn't even know how to make a regular Facebook post. And I was like, oh, I mean, I was kind of like, I mean, you almost think like that's
so common.
Right. But it's really not, especially with a certain generation that are retirees that open up a business. They're like, no.
What is this, the Facebook thing?
Right. We did Yellow Pages. Like, for my generation ish, it's common knowledge, you know, kind of like the younger generation doesn't know how a rotary phone works, but we do.
Right.
But, you know, it's like, why not teach somebody instead of
make fun of them or gasp or
Yeah. I mean, it's like they didn't grow up with that stuff. Like, I'm not sure if my children could work a rotary phone, but you know,
tape deck, record player.
Right. You know, we talk about different things, or they'll hear a song and they're like, oh, I love this song. And I'm like, oh, that's been out since the 60s. And they're like, what? No, it's brand new. So-and-so did it. And I'm like, no. I mean, yes, so-and-so's doing it now, but so-and-so did it back then. So, and it's just like this huge, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Yeah.
The generational gaps is kind of, I never thought I'd be living it, but here I am.
Right. Right.
Your competitors, we talked about how you don't look at them as competitors and they don't look at you. That's terrific, by the way. And I agree. I think that there's plenty of work out there. I think it can be unfortunate whenever a client or a customer can pit the two of y'all against each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like an auction. You know, like you see these people at the auction, they get caught up in the bidding war.
Right.
You know, competitors could be caught up in the same thing. It's like, oh, well, they said that they would do it way cheaper than you.
Right.
Really? How much cheaper?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well, we had that in the roofing business, with people taking away deductibles, which is illegal, by the way, now. But that was huge because it was like, well, they said they'd take away my $1,500 deductible. And I'm like, well, what are they going to take off your roof?
yeah.
Because of, what
You're
are you
going to be
not
missing
getting?
$1,500 in material.
Yeah, that's not just because they're sweet. And,
Yeah.
I don't feel. I mean, I could
Yeah.
be wrong, but then they made it illegal, so it was kind of it leveled the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Like level the playing field.
Yeah.
Like, don't make it to where you're offering this huge, incentive to go with them. Make it your quality.
Right.
And that was what the one thing about our Facebook page with Tomlin. It was like we're just regular guys. We do it the right way. We do quality.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be here when you have an issue.
The value that people assess or how people assess value is so frustrating sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I had said it earlier in a different interview that I'm horrible at negotiating because I don't negotiate. I don't feel it's my place to tell anybody what they're worth.
Right.
If somebody says, hey, X service is going to be X dollars, I'm going to look at that and say, it's worth it to me or it's not.
Right.
Not, hey, can I get it for this? You know what I mean? There's lots of books out there on the art of negotiating and the art of the deal and stuff like that. And they tell you how to negotiate, but that's just not me. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's so many other different things that I can focus on. And if anybody's ever listening to this, they're probably going to be like, you're an idiot, whatever. You know what I mean? I can't stand the haggle. This is why I don't ever sell anything. Like personally, because I don't want to deal with it. It's like, I'm done with this. It's served its purpose. Now it's taken up room. I don't want to put it up for sale and hear somebody tell me, I'll give you 20 cents for it. I'll throw it away before I sell it to you for that.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, garage sales that's just, it's crazy. I'd rather get a tax write-off than have a garage sale.
Yeah. Right. And I don't know where that comes from with people,
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting a deal already,
Right.
and then if you're not, why do you feel it's your place to say, oh, you'll never sell that for that?
Yeah.
What has that accomplished?
Right.
You've just made somebody pissed off.
Right.
You think you're going to get a deal now?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm the minority here. I'm sure that there's lots of other people that are going to disagree with me, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you post online, even more people will disagree.
yes, the trolls will come out. So, do you think that you are most productive in the mornings or in the evenings, or what time of day?
Morning
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Just because I'm worn down, partly because the health, partly because I have 3 wonderful, amazing, beautiful children. But
energetic children.
Yes, and now a half German Shepherd, half Border Collie, I think. It's just figuring out where you're best at. I'm best in the morning, and I'll even tell my friends, like, anything past 4 p.m., I'm usually not going to be there.
Yeah.
Just because it takes a toll.
Yeah.
And part of it is, a lot of it is the MS, and
you'd be surprised.
yeah.
I think.
Having the infusions I've had the last 2 years have been remarkable.
Yeah.
I feel and that was part of it too, is before my first infusion, I was dog tired all the time. By noon I was done, and now that they have the new medical, whatever, they come out with new stuff all the time for MS. Mm-hmm. They haven't found a cure, but I had a Limtrada infusion, which actually changes the cells in my body. It totally destroyed them. So I had the infusion March of 2020, which totally destroyed my immune system. And then of course it hit, COVID and all that. So I was like, oh my gosh. So that was
what worse timing to have.
Right. So I didn't, luckily everybody was home because I was like, I'm not, and I didn't know much about it at the time. I'm a lot more comfortable now, now that my immune system's built, because your cells regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we were trying to do is create new ones that weren't going to attack my body, because that's what MS does. It attacks your body.
Okay.
It attacks yourself. So that was a huge factor in when I opened my business, because I didn't feel like I could even, I didn't feel like I could take that on.
Well, yeah. I mean, not only just the actual physical health part of it, but you're exposing yourself at a pretty sensitive time.
Right. Right. So, and I also had the umbrella of already established businesses that I was working for. So I was doing I have the experience of social media, but I had the umbrella of the already established companies.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped a lot. I felt comfortable.
So do you have your finger on the pulse of all the new stuff that comes out? TikTok? I know that's not new. Don't roast me. But like Snapchat, Snapchat, and all. These aren't new, but I mean, I'm referring to them because it's like, people in my wheelhouse or age group or whatever you want to call it, they are more about Facebook, the core Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, right. Twitter.
And right now, that's my clientele base, is that group
Mm-hmm.
of demographics.
If you have an answer to your client's needs, whether it's your service or not, you're, I think, still going to be recognized as, hey, you need to get in touch with Crystal.
Right.
She can send you in the right direction if she can't help you out.
Right.
And at some point, as you grow your business, you'll take more of that as it comes on.
Right.
And as you grow, this is a fact of life. This is what happens as you grow. Those types of things become more relevant in the conversation. It's like, right. It's unfortunate that you can't help everybody. I've experienced this firsthand. Never thought I would. My business, my main business, River City Design, it grew to be such a machine that the small guys that I made my business on, I couldn't work for them, because they didn't have enough volume. For it to go through the machine, it cost me money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if the volume wasn't there in the job, then I'm paying you to do your drawings for you. You know what I mean? And it was a very, very interesting, very educational thing that happened. And, as our customers grew, as our clients grew, we had to grow to accommodate their growth.
Right.
And then so around 2018, it was out of control for my business, and that's an exciting thing to say, that you have explosive growth. So that's just, you can't contain it. Right.
Right.
Well, it's to be respected, because, it comes with its own set of problems.
Right.
So,
well, that's the year I met you.
2008?
2018.
18, I mean?
Yeah. That's when I started. That's when I met you guys, was 2018. And I was like, gosh, y'all are busy.
Yes. Oh my God. It was insane. And then, so like 2018, that's when I started to really double down on my other business.
Right.
People like to deal with people, you know what I mean? So right. Like I dealt with this a lot in my printing business. People wanted to talk to Jason.
Right.
Jason is talking to 40 other people. It's a little bit frustrating, because you want to, like I said, you want to service everybody,
right.
But I think at some point you're not gonna be able to.
Right.
What was your motivation for starting your own business?
It was money motivated.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't necessarily want to make 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more than that. I didn't want to be capped at that income. And I actually had someone reach out to apply for the same position I'm doing, and I declined, which I was like, I can't believe I would have never declined that ever. But I even told her that. I said, I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to be capped at 40 hours a week. I mean, as far as income level.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I pick up my kids at 3:00 in the afternoon. I absolutely refuse to put them in daycare after school.
So motivation, your motivation is financially driven, and also flexibility, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I think freedom is a very important thing. I had mentioned before, 9 to 5. I just don't get down with the 9 to 5.
Right.
Yeah. And it's you try to be accommodating to different things in life. You know what I mean? Things come up, you try to react. Um, I know the big shots, they do it much better. They've got it figured out. The Bill Gates and Elon Musk of the world, they do less reacting and they do more planning. And I think that's awesome and noble, but I'm not at that level. So
Right.
having the flexibility to work through the middle of the night because this is what you got to do. Hey, it is what it is.
Right.
So,
Well, and I think people is my next one. People are my passion.
yeah,
Helping people. I see other people helping and I'm just like, what, this community, the Church Cibolo community is one of the biggest,
Tom Daly be pissed if you didn't say Selma.
of course, Selma, Kevin Hattis would be mad too, of course. But it's just, I've called several of the entrepreneurs that I've met over the years and they've just been an open book. What do you want help with, Crystal? What do you want? And that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be someone that offers help and not just like, oh, that'll be $19.99.
Right.
Appreciate it. I'll take a credit card check. That's not what I'm about. And I may be charging too little.
I think that's very common. I think that's very common for entrepreneurs going out on their own. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear they charge too much, right? But
I've heard both.
do you charge by the hour or do you charge by the product, or both?
It's by the amount of posts that I create.
Interesting.
So there's a plan for 10, there's a plan for 20, there's a plan for one platform, there's a plan for 3.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on how far do you want to go? Ideally, what I tell people, of course, 3 platforms, 20 posts a month. That's the best way to do it.
Okay.
You want to be on Facebook, Instagram, Google. You want to do all, the ones that do the 10 and the Facebook only,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get medium.
Right.
Because you're not getting out there enough.
And then also too, that's going to kind of determine. That's going to kind of where their audience is.
Right.
You know what I mean? They might be able to get away with just doing a Facebook or a LinkedIn only or Twitter only. You know what I mean?
Right. But that also involves more of them.
Sure.
The less you spend, the more involvement I'm going to need from you,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Versus, because the hashtags go, it's all a thing, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
It's complicated, but it's to someone who does it, it makes sense.
Well, yeah. And to somebody who doesn't, I'm sure it's Greek.
Right. Right.
Where do I go now?
Right. Just like the more you spend with car, insurance, you're going to get a better rate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're going to have a better experience, I guess. So,
Do you have a timeline in your head of where you want to hit certain growth metrics? Or you're zeroed in on the today?
I'm pretty much zeroed in on today. I don't know. I'm kind of also, let's see where it goes naturally. I don't necessarily want to plan I have a business plan and things like that, but I'm not like, my life is not every plan I've ever had for my life. It's, God's like, oh, watch this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Especially with, just with children alone,
You said earlier, and I wanted to comment about being capped at 40, right? So it's flattering. It's flattering when other people want to, they recognize your talent and they recognize, hey, this person is valuable. I would love for you to come work for me, right? That's flattering. I had a situation where I had went out on my own, and one of my biggest customers, they wanted me to go to work for them full time, and that's tough, but I said, this is what I told them. I'm very flattered that you would offer me a position. I truly was, I said, but you'll be getting the worst deal. And this is why. Currently, I charge by the square foot, so you know what your costs are up front. You know what you're going to spend. I very rarely charge for revisions, I said, you tell me a date, I work day or night, and don't charge you overtime. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, Plus, I have the flexibility to work for other customers. So I'm motivated by a salary that I can make myself. I said, I'm not going to work harder for you than I would for me.
Right.
You know, so you're already getting the best deal. There's a gray area. There's a fine line, I guess, on what keeps employees and what keeps entrepreneurs.
Right.
All right, let's do a lightning round. So pick a
Alrighty.
color, one of those 4 colors right there in front of you, black, green, blue, or red. One color.
Interview deck. Would you rather interview deck? That doesn't help.
No,
I'm scared. Okay.
just pick a color.
Oh, black.
Black it is. So I'm going to shuffle these.
Oh.
And then I'm going to pick 5 and I'm going to read them off. So
5. Okay.
yeah, that's the lightning round.
Oh,
That's how we.
boy. No pressure.
So sometimes these are hit or miss. Sometimes I'm like, so what these are designed to do is they're designed to be the subject of the show, right?
Okay.
So you pick one
business
and
related.
you have, well, not even business related. Some of them are goofy as hell. Like, you know, you have $100,000 you have to donate you have to donate or create a charity. What would you do? Things like that.
Oh, that's easy.
So, yeah.
For me, anyway.
So, luckily, that's not part of the 5 that I drew.
Right.
First up, what was your first screen name?
Oh, that
This
was.
is kind of fitting
It is.
for the social media queen.
Well, it was actually in high school. I created my first email, and it was cowgirlup0715@yahoo.com. And that was, back then it was AOL.
Zero what?
0715.
0715. Cowgirl Up.
Yep. Because I rode horses up for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of, I love Lane Frost. Always like the cowboy up
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But of course, for me, it was girl. So cowgirl up, like, don't ever give up. Just keep going kind of thing.
What is something you like that most people don't?
Sushi.
Really?
I love sushi.
I love sushi too.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I could handle if I was like in Japan eating like real sushi. Like I like the American stuff
Americanized.
over at Kobe.
Right. That's my favorite place.
Sweet. Yes. All right. We're
Yeah.
on the same time. All right. So
I'm down.
if you could ask one person one question and they had to answer truthfully, who and what would you ask?
Oh my gosh. I wish my kids would answer me correctly and not lie. Yeah.
No,
that's
this
a good
is
one.
just a one-time deal. A one-time deal.
Oh. I don't know. Why did George Washington want to become president?
Who is your favorite hero of fiction?
Probably Captain America.
Yeah?
And you're probably going to ask me why.
Well, I was because I'm more of an Iron Man, Tony Stark guy.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like Captain America
Wholesome.
and he dealt with so many different things, I feel like. And I know they all did, but, he was a patriot.
Right.
So that sticks with me too.
Sure.
And my husband and I feel like we were born in the wrong time frame.
Yeah.
And his time frame is what we would have been.
What are you currently curious about?
Oh gosh, this is a tough one. Why we got so far away from like the family dynamic kind of thing. Like what changed that?
Yeah, family is very different than what it used to be, isn't it?
Right. And what was that changed? Was it, there's, and you can have, everybody would have a different opinion.
Well, and I think really it's a combination of things, right? It wasn't just one thing, but it did have to start somewhere.
Right.
You know,
where did that start? Like, where did it, and I don't want to say go south because that's not the right word, but
just a far departure from what it used to be.
Right.
So what's interesting is like, a couple things pop into mind. TV, right? So, I think it was Back to the Future, maybe, or one of those movies. It was, they sat down to eat dinner, and then the father brought the TV in.
Right.
They wheeled it in on so that they could watch TV while they eat.
Yeah.
But I would counter that with, they used to listen to the radio the same way.
Right.
Bring
in the radio, yeah.
But it wasn't nowhere near as, I think it was just played at a lower tone in the background noise more than it was, let me look at this and watch this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, family dinners, Like, and I hate to admit it, my family, whenever, during, whenever my kids were growing up and everything, I mean, it was a struggle to get all of us down, hurdled into one spot, to eat,
Right.
I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Sit down and eat dinner with your family with no devices
Right.
except for a fork and knife.
Yeah. We're a no device family at the table.
That's terrific.
Absolutely not. I
That's,
mean, we try and raise our kids more old school, what you would consider old school.
I don't even know that I would call it old school. I mean, just, there's a way, there's a way to do everything, and I think it's very important to consider that Bill Gates restricted his young children to device time so many hours before they went to bed. Take note, people. The lightning round. What's your productivity hack? How do you stay? You're more productive in the mornings than you are in the evenings.
Right.
Do you have any kind of system that's like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z? Do you have anything like that set up? Do you get sucked into the ever popular rabbit holes? So I know, like, whenever I'm like, if I'm researching something or if I'm looking at something, how something works, I could have 3 monitors, I could have 6 monitors. It doesn't matter. I've got them all filled up with stuff that I'm trying to learn and understand. And then it's been 6 days and I'm like, I stink and I need to shave. I'm like,
No, I don't.
you don't. Okay.
Part of that
You
is
shower regularly. That's
I
awesome.
do. Yeah. Well, when I can. Part of that is I have a planner.
Yes, this is the good stuff.
Yes, and I'll throw it out to Growing Out Loud, Darlin. She is a business consultant, and I have watched her for a couple years. I've met with her at one point, but I could never afford a business consultant.
Sure.
So I was like, let me pick what I can, like what she offers for free and that kind of thing. And then she came out with a planner, and it time blocks for
Yes.
you.
Yes,
So
nice.
that's I have to.
You have to time block.
I have to time block because I drop my kids off at 7:30 in the morning. And I'm home by 8:00. I have from 8 to about 2 to work. And that does include doctor's appointments.
Sure.
Like my daughter has a 1:00 appointment today, and it's like, okay, I might get a few hours in today.
Mm-hmm.
But I know tomorrow it's all day. All kids are at school.
Mm-hmm.
I have to really sit down and do things in a time block.
The misuse of allocated time, that is a
Yes.
huge problem that I run into, and I've tried time blocking and it works. I just got to stick with it.
You almost have to set a timer.
I've allocated an hour to do this thing, and then it's like, oh well, but in an hour 15 minutes you'll be done.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well that's reasonable. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then so then that 15 minutes actually turned into 45 minutes. And then
Right.
it's like, okay, well, time blocking today is gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? I suck at it, but I know that it works. You know what I mean? And then so yeah, this is what I'm like. A lot of people don't realize that the greatest equalizer in this whole planet is everybody has the same 24 hours.
Right.
Like you said, I got till 8 till 2, from 8 till 2. So like this is the chunk of your productivity.
Right.
You've got to maximize that, and if you don't, if you're going out on your own and if you don't realize, it doesn't matter what you do, like there was a lady over here that used to make cookies, you know what I mean? And her day was done by 11 o'clock, but I mean, she started at 3 a.m,
Right.
so understanding your actual true working hours, I think is a huge productivity hack, I guess.
Right.
Did you do that whenever you were working for employers also?
No. I mean, I had my own thing to do, but it would also include bosses adding to it.
Mm.
When I worked for the vice president, he had a lot of things come up throughout the day. So I didn't necessarily.
Couldn't plan, couldn't time block.
Right.
You got to respond and react.
I wish I could have
Mhm.
a little. I wish I had known about it.
There's an article out there. There's lots of articles out there about multitasking, having multiple monitors, and the whole multitasking hype, I guess.
Right.
It's like if you're not giving 100% to whatever it is that you're doing, then you're not giving 100%.
Right.
So
It's like, no, I can't have separate things because it's just too much squirrel for me.
well, so like I was using multiple monitors before they started having multiple tabs in a browser.
Oh.
So once they started having multiple tabs, I was a lost goose, man. I had crap everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was just looking at this one thing. Where'd it go? What's fascinating to me is that the amount of data out there is sick, but there's actual studies out there on what colors have effect on the human psyche the most, and in what capacity, and per gender. You know what I mean? So like a female looking at a picture of females with and I'm just grasping at straws here, but with like red or blue or whatever is the prominent color scheme, is going to have a certain effect on that person in a way that is going to be maybe different for a male, or
Right.
different for a different color, purple or something like that. And so I first learned about that whenever and I mean they had the whole color spectrum, and it was like percentages. And I'm a data nerd. I'm just like, I like to go through all that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, we're changing our colors. I can't keep these colors that I have now because it means this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it's very influential. I mean, when I first all you did was wear red and black, with the Acme colors. So I was like, I always associate you with red and black.
so for those of you listening, I had this very, very intentional and specific shirt made. That people have said lots of things. It looked like a bowling shirt. It looked like it was whatever. But the point is like, whenever you saw it, you knew it was Acme.
Right.
So anytime an Acme employee was outside into the real world or whatever, we were wearing that shirt, and it was intentional, it was deliberate,
Right.
It was, wow, it's loud, it's obnoxious, and it's very distinctive.
Right. And that was the one thing when Leanne with Mad Women Marketing was helping me create my logo. That was that's probably the toughest decision I've had since starting my business. And I was like, how is a logo so complicated?
Because it's a lot easier to help others than yourself.
Right. And then what she does, she kind of gives you feedback. And it was like everything I would send her, she's like, this says this, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, okay. And she was right.
Yeah.
But I didn't think of it from that perspective, And so when we came up with the Crystal Clear Media Solutions, the current logo, it's kind of like a mirror. It's crystal clear. It's helping you create solutions, and they're very clear.
Right.
So that was the thing. It was like, okay, this is my problem. Here's a solution, period. And so I really liked it because it was, of course, it has to do with my name, but it doesn't.
Right. Well, and then also it's pretty obvious what it means.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had to create the logo because media can mean so many things.
Sure.
There was one that I sent her. She's like, you look like a TV person. And I was like, okay. And I didn't correlate, that.
Because in your head, you're thinking media, you know what it means.
Right. But she was giving me the outside perspective because that's who's looking at it, as other people. So she was kind of like, nope, and I took my headshot pictures that I just recently took.
It looked great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. My arms were crossed in one of them, and she's like, that makes you look like you're not easy to work with. And I'm like total opposite of that. So I was kind of like, dang it, because I love the picture, but I was like, okay, I could see from another, if you don't know me,
right,
you don't know if I'm easy to work with,
So like, I always work backwards, so I'm like, my expenses are X. So I need to have this much work. I need to be working this. I need to have this, many whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like, my expenses, is what started that conversation of me trying to figure out my workflow.
Right.
Right. So what about you? Do you have? This is your second week.
Yes. Yeah.
So. I'm throwing a lot at you and you're taking it really well. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So, but do you have, is that on your radar right now? What it's going to take to run this business, and not necessarily what you need, but what you need, you know what I mean? To make it worth your while, or the ability for you to grow. You know what I mean? Like the ability for it to really be worth your while. You know what I mean? I mean, you want to help everybody, and there's this whole hierarchy conversation about support, and everything else that comes into this. But do you at this point have anything that you're working backwards from? Like, I need to have this many customers. I need to have this much work. I need to have this much income.
We broke it down by how many clients it would take.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 15 clients a month. And I've got about 4. So I was like, okay, and so
Well, it kind of puts things in perspective.
Right. Because I was just like, and that was the basic plan I have. That wasn't the bigger plan.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what people are going for right now with budgets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I wish I'd had more capital to start.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's expensive.
Yes, it is.
To have everything in place. So I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a hindrance, but I mean, I was blessed to have the customers. I mean, I have 4 customers within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had them all mostly by the first weekend that I was talking about in advertising. I mean, I want to grow it to 15.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal. That's my first goal. And then I'll work from there.
Perfect.
But, I'm kind of, I just wish there had been more capital involved, I guess, to try and get everything done.
So, yeah, sometimes, though, that's not always a good thing.
Right. Because then you're in debt right away.
Look around. You are my 4th interview. I've got 2 shows up right now. The second show with Stosh crapped out, so I got to redo it. And he was more than willing to come in. He's going to come in this week, and we're going to redo it.
Yeah.
But, like, to start a podcast, you need 2 microphones. If you're going to interview somebody, you don't even need that. If you're not even going to interview somebody, you just need 1 microphone.
Oh, wow.
And a cell phone, right? I've been known to go overboard. You know what I mean? But it's like sometimes having that restriction kind of zeroes in your focus. You're like, okay, well, this isn't even an option.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So like,
so that's probably been good for me.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So I mean, like, I'm a gearhead. I like all the bells and whistles, and I want things to work a certain way. You know what I mean? And so like, I've spent an equal amount of time looking into having a podcast show as I have the gear. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's probably bad. You know what I mean? Because like, I with the show, I do want to provide good content. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, that's really what I need to be focusing on, not which microphone is the best.
Right.
As long as you can hear me in it. You know what I mean? So back to what you're saying, yes, it's always going to be nice to have more capital. Yeah. I mean, you'll always find a use for it. Really.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But
new clothes. I mean,
but, but, having that, okay, this isn't even an option. You know what I mean? Let me focus in on this instead. That could be used to your benefit as well.
Right.
There's definitely something to be said about, growing at a certain rate, growing in a certain process, in a certain sequence rather.
Right.
So my nephew, he was telling me about a time whenever I was helping him. He said that I asked him, how did he source his sales? And he was like, dude, I printed thousands of flyers. He goes, you help me with it, and he was over here, in the middle of the night printing those damn things, him and his buddy or whatever. And he was handing out thousands of flyers. And he goes, people hate that. He goes,
right.
People don't like having that stuff on their car or at their house. People don't like it. He goes, but I landed 2 really big jobs. And once I landed that second really big job from those flyers, I stopped handing out flyers.
Right.
But I mean, it was a process for him. It was a sequence. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. I think that, depending on your entrepreneurial endeavor, maybe you need to have.
And that's how I think that the chambers will help, because you're going to remember that person. Like, I'm going to use someone local for my business. So I'm going to go, oh, well, let me call whoever, whatever, depending on what I need. High tech solutions. I'm in a networking group, and I realized he's across the street from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jason Drago.
Yes. Yeah. And he's been great.
Yeah.
He's a good
I used him in my building.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, I'm going to use him because I trust him, so I feel like those kinds of the chambers, the networking events, everybody's like, oh, I don't want to go to another one. But it's like they trust you. They know you. because calling somebody brand new, you're like, I don't know this person. And
And
Google
they,
reviews are great, but they don't.
yeah, it doesn't, if you can get in front of somebody in the real time and live and just have a conversation with them, like my buddy Alan was saying, he was like, the biggest thing about selling is to not talk about what it is that you're selling.
Right. I completely agreed with that statement.
Parting words of wisdom for anybody who's thinking about going out on their own. What do you have for them?
Even if you can't quit your job, start small.
Get the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. Yeah. Get out there and meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the networking in the chambers, I mean, they're huge. And I feel like people that are a part of the chambers, they don't utilize them enough.
Agree.
I mean, I think that part of it is, I have to talk to people. I mean, that's a hard thing for anybody, for some, I mean,
sure.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
That aren't necessarily, I'm more of a helper type personality. So I'm like, how am I going to go up and talk to people?
Without going into any names, if there are any, would you say that there's anybody in this area that has given you pushback whenever you've asked for help or advice?
No, not one single person. Everybody has been, even the councilmen and the mayors and stuff like that. And I encourage people. I didn't know, let's see, we've lived in church 7 years, and I didn't know my mayor until 2018.
When you got involved with the chamber.
Correct. And that was Michael Carpenter at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who he was,
mm-hmm.
And now Ralph Gutierrez, of course.
Yep.
They truly support the small businesses. And you feel like, oh, they're the mayor. They're above me. Mm-mm. They're just normal people like us.
Working their own jobs.
Exactly. Working their own businesses, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stosh.
Yep.
They're just down-to-earth people,
mm-hmm.
And I love the support of the councils, all the council members and stuff like that. I know several, and it's and get involved with, one of the things I attended right before the election of 2020 was the Republican, and just because I wanted to see what it was about,
sure.
Not any affiliation
right.
necessarily. I just wanted to see what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of people post about it. So I was like, well, I want to go to this one. I met Allison Hayward. I'd never met her before.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been my council member for how many years?
Right.
I mean, I truly don't know. Sorry, Allison. But a lot of people don't get involved.
Right.
They want to complain on social media,
mm-hmm.
on the groups and stuff. Well, these roads are bumpy. Well, let's find out why.
Why? And how can we move forward with fixing it?
Yeah. Like, let's talk to council,
Interesting. You're bringing up the mayors and council of our small cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you talk politics, just that word politics puts something in your head. You think of something right away.
Right.
National politics and even to some degree statewide politics
mm-hmm.
is very different than your local small city politics.
Right.
It's of course there is some left and right stuff, but I mean the majority of it is it's helping small business.
Right.
Because helping small business is going to help the cities. It's going to
right.
help them fix those roads. It's going to help them get better whatever, So yeah, it's being involved at a local level is I agree with you. I think it's and I don't mean like being involved with politics at a local. I'm just being involved. Get involved with your local chamber, or like you said, the mayors of these cities. They're not like, it's not like the president. I guess
right.
it is though. It's the president of the city.
Right. Yeah.
But it's yeah.
And my thing is I would never vote in the small stuff.
Right.
Till about, I guess, when I met
18.
My mayors.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2018.
Just the opposite now for me.
Right.
I could care, it's like, I know this is probably not good to say, and I'll probably edit it out later, but, I don't really care about who the president is. I care more about who's running in my local election. Sometimes I don't always get involved, but, sometimes it's like, hey, this is important because it's going to directly affect you.
Right. Right.
So for the people listening, how can they reach out to you, and what is the name of your company again, and all that social media stuff? There's a catchphrase out there for it. It's how can they find you? Where can they tweet you? What's the What do you know the tagline I'm thinking about?
Contact info.
Okay.
I'm pretty basic.
We'll go that way. Yeah. I'm going to have to do a voiceover later.
Right.
How can people find you?
Facebook, I'm Crystal Clear Media Solutions on Facebook, Instagram. Of course, you can like and follow. I have a lot of personal stuff on mine too, because I'm a human being. My email is info@crystalclearmediasolutions.com.
Get her now while she's working on that first 15.
Right.
After that,
Right.
she's going to be hard to get a hold of.
Right. Then you can talk to my assistant.
Yes. Then you can, have my people call your people.
Right. Yeah.
Crystal, I appreciate you coming over today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jason.
Uh-huh.